So we are continuing our discussion on chapter 12 of Canto 7, uh, description of the perfect society, a conversation between Narad Muni and Yudhishthir Maharaj, which is being narrated in Bhagavad. Two chapters, actually there are 5 chapters which cover the topic of Varnashram Dharma. The 2 chapters which are 11 and 12 discuss an overview of the 4 Varnas and the 4 Ashramas. Of course, the topic of the 4 Ashramas actually spans over 4 chapters. The Varnas was mainly summarized in 1 chapter, which we have already discussed. Chapter 12 gives an overview of the 4, but focuses on 2. Focuses on Brahmacharis and focuses on Vanaprasthas. And we briefly discussed why they are similar, because both are relatively similar duties, even though emphasis in Brahmachari ashram is more on studies and there is some austerity, but in Vanaprastha there is an increase in austerity. Because Vedic studies may continue, but in the Brahmachari ashram is the first time they are reading, and Vanaprastha, of course, studies will be much more advanced and deeper and very focused on achieving the real goal of life, liberation. Whereas in Brahmachari ashram, studies are the formative studies, which include the basics of Vedic Dharma and also various skills and knowledge related to the Varna. So Brahmachari ashram is an ashram which is a holistic training for the human form of life. We covered the first 5 verses, 6 verses in the last conversation. We spoke quite a bit in the last class about the overall system of the ashramas and the varnas, that matrix, and what is the logical thought process in terms of the 4 stages of life: Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. Across the entire Varnashram system, the real goal of life is always the ultimate focus. And what is the real goal of life? At least liberation and ideally pure love of God. At least mukti, which is of course by itself also a great goal, or ideally prem. Of course, within prem, mukti is already included as a byproduct. So we are not mentioning that separately. It is not that there are 2 totally independent, but prema includes mukti. Because prem is even beyond mukti. Prem is direct, loving, devotional service to the Supreme Lord in His abode, which is the perfection of the Purusharthas. So even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we are discussing that the teachings to Sanatan Shiksha. In our Tuesday class, we are already discussing that topic, where Lord Chaitanya says, Bhakti is the Panchama Purushartha. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Most people stop at Moksha. But beyond Moksha is Prema or Bhakti, pure devotion. Because that goes beyond the material manifestation. It is beyond liberation. It steps on liberation and goes higher. Liberation is a stepping stone to the destination of Prema, which means when one has reached Prema, one has already crossed the step of so that should be a guiding compass in the life of those who are Arya. Arya means those who are progressive, especially the Dvijas. Who are the Dvijas? The Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, and the Brahmanas. Why? Because they are the ones who have gone through the study of the Vedas. They have been trained by the spiritual master about what is the goal of life, how to lead a dharmic life according to their nature. They are trained in the Vedas, they are trained in their skills, then they are placed in the society to go through the other ashramas according to their ability. Right? We discussed, right? Most of the Varnas will go through the Grahastha ashram. Brahmachari, we discussed, the Dvijas go through Vaishya, Kshatriya, and the Brahmana. They get the sacred thread, they get the Gayatri, they get admitted to the school of the Vedas. So somebody will say, hey Prabhu, why Shudras discrimination not allowed? No, no, it is not a birth-based discrimination. Their admission is not given based on their guna and karma, that they cannot live a disciplined life, what is expected in a brahmacharya ashram. Do you think anybody and everybody can go to the brahmacharya ashram? No. It's a very strict, regulated life. We began with the discussion of brahmacharya ashram. Brahmachari guru kule vasandanto ror hitam. He lives there exclusively for the benefit of the guru. And typically at least 12 years or more. It's a hostel life for 12 years or more. Wearing deer skin, very simple clothes, sleeping on the floor, getting up early morning, doing pujas and austerities and studying the Vedas. This is not something which each and every one can do. So the brahmachari life is Brahmacharati iti brahmachari. Brahma means transcendental truth, not Brahma. Brahma is not Brahma. Brahma. Brahma janati iti brahmana. He who knows Brahman or transcendental truth is known as a Brahman. That is the proper definition of Brahman, not just because somebody wears thread. A thread is worn by Vaishyas, a thread is worn by Kshatriyas, a thread is worn by Brahmanas also. Please understand this. All three are Dvija. Many people have this misunderstanding because of lack of understanding of Varnashram Dharma, that just because somebody wears a thread, he is a Brahman. No. Vaishya, Kshatriya, Brahman, all three wear the thread because all three are given Gayatri or Upanayana, Samskara, by which they are admitted into the Vedic university where the Guru teaches them according to their Varna, both spiritual and material knowledge. So the first 25 years are dedicated to having the foundations right for a good life. And again, a good life here is not purely from a material sense. Yes, material well-being is important and is taught, but the definition of material success is not as per today's time. Today's time, unless somebody becomes a big CEO or a big politician, a big industrialist, they are considered didn't quite make it in life. Vedic definition is very simple. You're nicely engaged in the duties of your Varna and Ashram. You are happy and satisfied in the performance of that, and you're progressive in your spiritual journey. Success. It doesn't matter whether you get accolades of the society or not. That spaces your karma. You may get, you may not get. You get very nice. You don't get. It's not a criteria of success of life. It doesn't determine your afterlife. It doesn't determine your destination. So Brahma Charati. One is supposed to instill the right values because the early years are very formative. The right values, the to instill the right discipline in the lives of the students. Those who are not disciplined in young age find it very difficult to discipline themselves in the later years of life. Those who are not trained in austerity in their early years find it very difficult later on to follow austerities. Because the higher three Varnas, Vaishya, Kshatriya and Brahmana, go through the Brahmachari training. After Grahastha life, if they follow a proper dharmic life, they will develop enough detachment to continue a renounced like life which they lived in their first 25 years by entering Vanaprasthas and maybe progressing towards sannyas? Or do you think if a person has no training, do you think after the rest of 50 years of a pampered body and mind, somebody can just go to the forest? So it requires a lot of uh, deep impressions of austerity, of selflessness, of a very regulated life, of higher values of life. These are very important. That is why these foundational aspects are all instilled in the Brahmachari ashram. So we discussed the first 5 verses, basically described how the Brahmachari conducts himself in the ashram of the Guru. So he lives as a servant. He learns the Vedas, he wakes up every day morning, cleanses himself, studies the Vedas, does the fire rituals as per instructed by the Guru, collects alms, bhiksha, bhavati bhiksham, whatever he collects, he gives to the Guru. He doesn't say, I'll take 5% commission. Sometimes even in the spiritual realm, people collect money and take some cut. That's not a very good practice. Even in the devotional realm, cut for collecting finance for various projects. So, no consideration of personal possessions. Everything is for service of Guru. Okay? Give to Guru, give to Guru Mata. She will do whatever needs to be done. When it's time for lunch, the Guru will call. The rule is, if the Guru calls you, you come and eat. If the Guru doesn't call you, you fast. So the idea here is how much, correct? So this is not mentioned here to give an idea that this is such a terrorizing system. No, that's not the idea. The idea is how personally the Guru and the Guru Mata are concerned for the welfare. Just like even in our own homes, right? Our mother and father will personally call each one of the children, come for lunch. So the Guru and the Guru Patni, usually Brahmachari ashrams, those days in the traditional world, would be a husband-wife couple. Because in the upbringing of young children who are, 5-7 years and above, 5-7 years all the way up to early 20s, right? They require both a fatherly and a motherly figure in their life for their proper development. Once they leave home and come to the ashram, the Guru and the Guru Patni take on that role. Guru is the discipliner, the Guru Mata is the nurturing aspect, which embodies the motherly sentiment. So she takes care, she makes sure. So the Guru or the Guru Patni will call and the children will come and she will feed and take care. So she takes care of certain aspects of the ashram. So in this way, the student is trained, and as much as possible, according to their capacity. So the Guru will always observe the Brahmachari ashram. What is the aptitude of the student? What is the talent of the student? And accordingly to the degree that he is able to, knowledge will be given. Right? Not like modern education where everyone is forced to learn all subjects until so many years they get so frustrated. Correct? There are some people who are just not good with maths, but they will be very good doctors. Yeah, I've seen such people. Even basic things in maths, they will struggle. They're very good doctors. So there are various kinds of intelligence, which is recognized even in the modern world. So it is the Guru's duty, based on the Varna that he is born in, to observe and identify whether the Varna characteristics are manifested, or if not, are other Varna characteristics manifested, and accordingly guide the student. The whole idea being to help the student learn and develop up to his full potential, not forcefully teach him things that he is not qualified for. And generally, the Shudras are excluded because their capacity and aptitude and qualities are such that don't even fit into the system. Prabhupada says later in this chapter, the Shudras are not so much into spiritual and religious aspects. They're only interested in skills and technology. So technicians, technologists, at least those professions. I'm not saying that all technologists and technicians are Shudras, but that profession, artisans, they're all Shudras because they're very skill based. They're not into scripture, they're not into so much into a lot of dharmic activity. They say, I will learn a profession, either some skill or some technology or something, and I will render service based on my knowledge, either to the Vaishyas or to the Kshatriyas or to the Brahmanas. Then in return, I will get some remuneration, whatever is sought. So that is the mentality of the Shudra. The Shudra is happy to render service and get remuneration. So in modern world, that is known as job. Okay. So traditionally, in the Vedic system, neither the Vaishya, nor the Kshatriya, nor the Brahmana does a job. Only Shudras do job. Correct? Yeah. So you can understand why Kalau Shudra Sambhava. Kali Yuga, practically everyone is a Shudra. Because even those who are doing the duties of the others are also Shudra by nature, but somehow they are a little bit better skilled. Their nature and temperament may be a little bit like the higher Varnas. So they have that kind of predisposition. So that was the basic in terms of the Brahmachari ashram. The Brahmachari dresses very simply. Said, typically in the Vedic system, even though here in these verses that I don't think it is mentioned, typically a Brahmachari wears yellow color cloth. In ISKCON, sometimes Brahmacharis originally when they start, they wear white and then they become saffron eventually. So what is the meaning of saffron? We'll come to that in a few minutes. But traditionally, a Brahmachari wears yellow according to the Vedic system. So if somebody you see in a yellow means he's in Brahmachari ashram. Saffron means saffron indicates an intention to remain celibate for life. Saffron is not to be worn as a fashion. Oh, every Saturday and Sunday I wear saffron. Saturdays I wear colorful clothes. Saffron is a very serious color. So yellow is the color of fire. Fire can be yellow, fire can be red, saffron. So, and in certain ISKCON ashrams, yellow is used. Mayapur, if I'm not wrong, in the Gurukul of Mayapur also, I think they use yellow, if I'm not wrong. Quite a few, even Juhu ashram would at one time. Not for all, I don't know what exactly were the rules, but yellow was one of the accepted colors. I don't know what it is now. In olden times, they would also wear a deer skin of deers who had naturally passed away. And of course, the secret thread there'll be a belt, there'll be kusha grass, there'll be a danda. Right? So sometimes people will buy a danda. Those days they would stay in the forest, they would have to walk around all kind of places, sometimes go to the forest, pick berries, pick fruits, go into villages, beg. Stick served many purposes. I don't want to go into details, but yeah, I think you can understand. Yeah. So after that basic definition of brahmachari, uh, the Bhagavatam goes into a different section of how a brahmachari's conduct and dealings with a woman. What are the rules around that? So very nice insights the Bhagavatam gives. So the Bhagavatam says a brahmachari who's staying in the ashram of the Guru, who has not yet taken grihastha, must be very rigid in avoiding talking with women or about women. Sometimes, people say, I'm not associating, but I'm discussing. But that also is not. Because whatever you discuss, you contemplate, and then you get attached. And the Shastras immediately say the reason for this is that the senses are so powerful, that what to speak of a brahmachari, even for a sannyasi, if he is not careful with respect to this rule, it can agitate the mind of even a sannyasi who's advanced in spiritual realization. Because this attraction of the opposite sex is so strongly built into the body, this material body, that for a conditioned soul, Prabhupada would say that for a conditioned soul, the thought of sex desire is never far away. Most of the time it is there in the mind, even if it is not in the mind, it's just slightly in the background. Little bit stimulus will come in the form of situation, discussion, uh, anything which can provoke or incite or excite, immediately that thought will come. Of course, those who are cultured, when the thought comes, they will try to push it away. The problem is not so much that the thought comes, that the thought comes is to be expected. But to not contemplate and act on the thought is the expectation. Sometimes devotees become so frustrated. Prabhu, I still get certain kind of thoughts. And they become very frustrated. As if they think after 3 years of chanting Hare Krishna, no more thoughts of material attraction of any sort will come. It's not like that. The Shastras are very clear. Even a sannyasi has to be very, very careful. As long as one has not transcended material nature, the risk of the mind and senses demanding a particular kind of enjoyment will come. One has to tolerate tam titikshasva, neglect, push it aside and focus on one's dharmic and spiritual. And with that focus in mind for a brahmachari, that he has to just yavat artham means whatever is needed. Because in the ashram, even though there are generally brahmacharis, there will be some ladies who are there, no? Maybe in the kitchen there are some ladies. The Guru Mata also is there. She's also a lady. There may be others who are, for some purposes, some work, some sevas, they may be coming. So only as much as needed. Not much talking or not much. And one more warning, given that, it is so, the mind is so restless. The Bhagavatam says that if the Guru Patni, if the Guru and the Guru Patni are an elderly couple, it's different. But if the Guru and the Guru Patni are such that the Guru Patni is young, then also the brahmacharis should be careful in interaction. Because for very young children, the Guru Mata who may be elderly, she may actually tend to the children in a motherly, affectionate way. Sometimes, massaging them with oils, bathing them, getting them dressed, just like a mother would. But if the Guru Patni happens to be young, then the brahmachari should not allow her to render services of these type. So that's a precaution that is mentioned. And then Bhagavatam gives a very strong warning. And Prabhupada mentioned this many, many times across his classes and lectures. So this is a very, very nice verse. Let me. Okay, sorry. I forgot to mention one point. He says, especially, while contact with women should be controlled by all brahmacharis, especially by agrihasto brihad vrataha. Agrihastha, he has not accepted grihastha and he is brihad vrata. Brihadvrata means he who has taken a great vow. What is that great vow? The Bhishma vow, Brihadvrata, which means I will not marry. Sometimes brahmacharis, after living certain years in the Guru's ashram, they feel, yeah, their nature and their Vedic studies and all that give them the determination. I don't want to go in this direction. Too much trouble. I just want to remain continuing my spiritual development in the Guru's ashram. So Brihad Vrata. So person can continue to remain brahmachari. He doesn't have to become a grahastha. So such a person is known as Brihad Vrata. Eventually they may become sannyasis. But they continue in the ashram even beyond whatever their 20s when one is typically supposed to graduate. And such graduated individuals may even help the Guru to teach the younger students the ashram and to manage the duties of the ashram. So for such a agrahastha brihadvrataha, one must be all the more rigid, even more than the others. Others are going to grahastha ashram, yes. Yavan artha, whatever is needed only. For such people, very careful in their interaction, avoid talking, not just with women, but those men who are controlled by women. Two-tier protection. Why? Because those men who are attached to women, when you come in their association, they will be talking about women because of their attachment. They will contaminate you. Correct? Many times it happens, right? People pick up bad habits, children and adults alike, not because they directly associate with the bad habits. They associate with those who are addicted to the bad habits. And they continuously hear the glorification of those bad habits and continuously are exposed to the engagement of that bad habits at a second person level through that association. And then they also tell, oh, maybe this is so nice. This guy seems to be enjoying so much. He's so happy. Maybe I should also try. Then they say, why don't you call me on the Friday evening? I'll also join you this time. Right? Or a Saturday evening. You all are very saintly. You are discussing Bhagavatam on Saturday evening, but Saturday evening is generally popular for other reasons. So anyway, you are all great souls. So it's very wonderful. And that's why brahmachari should be careful. And the Bhagavatam says, Nanu Agni Pramadhanam Grihat Kumbha Samapuman Sutam Apiraho Jayad Anyada Yavat Arthakrit. Very famous verse. The Bhagavatam says a woman is compared to fire and a man is compared to a pot of butter. Grihat Grita Kumbha. Grita means butter. Kumbha, a small vessel. Samapuman. What does that mean? What happens when a pot of butter comes even close to fire? Sometimes we put butter in the fridge, right? And we want to use it so hard, we cannot use it properly. Just take it out. Just keep it a little distance from the fire. Even little distance from the fire also. If it remains there for some time, it will start melting and it will melt and spill everywhere. So Bhagavatam says, whether the butter comes near the fire or fire comes near the butter will melt. That is the nature. I mean, that is the nature in which the male body and psyche is made by the creator. So please understand that this is a principle of creation. When butter and fire come, so don't be shocked. Oh, butter is melting. Arey Baba, which fire have you gone near? Either direct association of Stri or association with a Stri Sangi, somebody who's attached to woman. Or as uh, the Bhagavatam says in another verse, another word is used. I'll recollect that and mention somebody who's under the control of women. And Bhagavatam again goes one more level to emphasize. He says, don't take this statement cheaply. It is not that a man and a woman, this fire and butter example is true only in some cases. But I am okay. No, no, I don't. It's only for low class people. So advanced sannyasi, I am so advanced guru, I am so advanced temple president, I am a preacher for so many years. Nothing happens to me. Even if I embrace a woman, I see that the soul is everywhere. So unless you are on actually at the platform of liberation, even for those who are on the platform of liberation, they don't do like this because they want to set the right example. So what to speak of those who are not? The Bhagavatam says a man should avoid associating even with his own daughter in a secluded place because the senses are so powerful. Pramati balavadridam. They are very stubborn. So one should associate with women only for important business and not otherwise. So this is an important principle, uh, both in terms of its following. This is true not just for brahmacharis, it's true for grihasthas. Grihasthas have a little more license because they're in the married ashram. It's not as strict as brahmacharis and sannyasis. Brahmacharis and sannyasis is very, very strict. Vanaprasthas also very, very strict. For grihastha, of course, with his wife, there is that is not an issue. But with other ladies, matrivat paradareshu, the vision of seeing everyone else as the mother, and also restricting one's interaction. So even in the Vedic culture, even if once the daughter comes into adolescence and goes beyond, generally the fathers will keep a little bit of distance. The mother will be close, but the father will keep a bit of distance. And that is the right thing to do. So all these regulations, the Bhagavatam says, actually applies to across, but all the more to the renounced uh, ashram. Out of the four ashramas, three are renounced. So, so Brahmachari is a renunciation, Vanaprastha is a renunciation, Sannyasa is supreme renunciation, everything. Only Grihastha is little bit concession in the middle. Otherwise, human life should advance. So only the Grihastha, that 25 years, is given that concession with his lawfully wedded wife to come together for procreation. For others, whatever rules we discussed earlier apply. And even for the Grihastha, it applies for all other women other than his wife. And because this kind of control of the mind and senses, because this urge of physical attraction is so strong, it is said, he who can control this urge, I'm not even saying transcend it. Transcend it is a very high level. You can control also, can go very, very far in terms of, heightening their material and spiritual abilities. So, sex life is not just about union between man and woman. It is also in discussing about man, woman and their relationship, hearing about such things, seeing such things, contemplating such things, and even at one extent, pampering of the body. And that's why, because pampering of the body or giving pleasure to the body through nice ointments, massages, and activities like eating meat, drinking wine, decorating the body too much. All these things also increase one's sex desire. So Bhagavatam says one should be a bit careful. And especially in the renounced order, one should. So in that way, one goes to the ashram, one is educated by the Guru, one uh, remains in the ashram and is trained and studies Vedic scriptures according to his ability. At the end of one's education, sometimes the Brahmana students may stay longer, the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas may stay a little lesser years, but once they complete their education, according to their capacity and sometimes based on the request of the Guru, Guru Dakshina is to be given. And then the Guru gives blessings to the disciple to accept the next ashram. Of course, generally the vast majority will go into Grahastha. Uh, but there will be some who will say that, Guru Maharaj, you have taught so much, after this I have no more interest. So I want Brihad Vrat. I want to remain Brahmachari. So some may remain Brahmachari, some may eventually even take sannyas. The important thing, the success of Brahmachari ashram for all, for the Vaishya, for the Kshatriya, for the Brahmana, whatever ashram that one goes to, whether one goes to Brahmachari, from Brahmachari to Grihastha, Vanaprasthas or Sannyas, one is expected that through this Brahmachari training, one comes to the understanding and maintains the remembrance of how the Lord is present in everything and everywhere. The Lord is in the fire. Fire means we're talking about the Yajna fire. The Lord is in the spiritual master. The Lord is in myself, my heart, and the Lord is in the heart of all living entities. That knowledge that the Lord has both entered and not entered everything. That He is both internally and externally the controller of everything. That basic and conclusive understanding. Actually, it is conclusive, but it is a very all encompassing realization. One is expected to have that and be able to hold that across one's life, even through Grihastha ashram, Vanaprastha, and so on. And Krishna, even the Bhagavad Gita and many other places, echoes this idea many, many times. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam chamai pashyati. He who sees me in everything and everything in me. To him I am never lost, nor is he ever lost. Another place in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that I am situated in everything, but at the same time, I am also situated outside. And that is what the Bhagavatam is saying here. That Lord Vishnu is simultaneously entered and not entered everything. How has he entered everything? He is within everything. As his Brahman aspect, he is everywhere. As his Paramatma is in the heart of every living entity. At the same time, he is outside. How? In his original form as the Supreme Person, as his Bhagwan aspect, he is in his abode. So the Lord is in everything, everything is in the Lord, but the Lord is still distinct because he maintains his identity. This is the right understanding of the Vedic conclusion. If one at the end of Brahmachari ashram says, "Oh, I am God, you are God, all are God," array, fail, go back, back to school. You haven't done properly. Is everything God? Not really, even though in one sense you may say everything is God, but just if you take that statement, it is wrong because everything is God's energy and God's energy belongs to Him. In that sense, everything is God, but doesn't mean the dog is God, the table is God. No, God is in it, it belongs to God, but these energies exist independent and the Lord exists above and beyond all these energies as their controller and enjoyer. He is situated internally and externally at the same time and remains the full controller of all his energies. So always realizing this all pervading presence of the Supreme Lord. If one goes through one's life from Brahmachari to Grihastha to Vanaprasthas to Sannyas or whatever, based on one's Varna, whatever ashramas one goes to, and maintain this and execute such dharmic duties properly, keeping this realization, then one will understand and attain the absolute. Again, if one doesn't come from Brahmacharya ashram, one can neither understand this conclusion, nor can one maintain, nor when one will have the right spiritual and material training or knowledge to follow one's dharmic duties across one's life. So that was the culture until a few hundred years ago. Right? 5,000 years of Kali Yuga has passed. Just imagine the last 200-300 years, how much degradation has come. Being saintly has become unfashionable. It is fashion. It has become fashionable to be atheistic. It has become fashionable to become agnostic. Out of foolishness, people extrapolate the conception of spiritual equality to material equality. No, at the material level, things are not equal. It is not. There are three gunas, there are combinations, different things are manifested in different ways. That is true. At the material level, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra manifest different qualities. Yes, they all serve a purpose and they are all useful and valuable. But they have their specific strengths and value that they bring. And there is a relative significance. Spiritually, the soul is qualitatively equal. But in the conditioned state, the bodies are not. Not just among humans, but between humans and animals. The Bhagavatam says, when the Bhagavad Gita says, Shuni chaiva shopakecha panditaha samadarshinaha, that the Pandit sees the same super soul within the Brahman, the elephant, the cow, the chandal, and the dog. It's the same Paramatma. But does it mean that the learned person, when he sees the dog, he goes and embraces the dog? Or when he sees a tiger, oh, same Paramatma is there in the heart of, my son and the tiger, let me go and embrace. No, if he embraces, even if he has that knowledge, he will get killed. So we cannot be stupid. We have to understand what it means. So half spiritual knowledge can also be dangerous. One should properly understand how the Lord is present both internally and externally. Though God is present everywhere and in everything, not everything is God. Everything is in God, God is in everything, but still He maintains His distinct identity. This is the correct conclusion of all scriptures. Please hold it in your heart and live life accordingly. That brings us to the end of, not the chapter, but Brahmachari section. So the remaining half of the chapter is Vanaprastha, which we can cover in the remaining 13 minutes. Haribo, no problem. Even though there are a lot of verses, there is not a lot of content for Brahmachari ashram, for Vanaprastha ashram. The idea of Vanaprastha, like what we discussed, is once one has gone through Grihastha ashram, one has to, in Grihastha ashram, one has to engage so much with dharma, artha, kama, that unwittingly, unwantingly, attachments will be there, entanglements will be there, so much karma is gathered, sometimes even unknowingly, unwittingly, knowingly and unknowingly, that by the end of Grihastha ashram, if one actually wants to refocus on the real goal of life, then some detoxification is necessary. One has to detox. So Vanaprastha is something like a detox. Vanaprastha is that phase of life where one has had enough of material life. One wants to focus on the spiritual goal and one wants to distance himself from material life. So you can think of Vanaprastha as an in-between stage between Grihastha and Sannyas. So when one distances and simultaneously one simplifies his life to an absolute bare minimum, basic bodily necessities, no pampering, no material pursuits, live a life of study, austerity, seva, so that one develops in knowledge and renunciation. Eventually, hopefully, ideally, coming to the stage of taking full shelter of the Supreme Lord in the form of a sannyasi. And even this Vanaprastha ashram is so glorious. Bhagavatam says that if somebody follows properly the rules of Vanaprastha ashram, it is so glorious that easily one can attain the Maharloka. Maharloka. You know what is Maharloka? Maharloka is the beginning of the upper planetary systems. Of course, Bhur Bhuva Swaha is there, they are also upper, but amongst the more elevated planets, Maharlok is the beginning. Mahar Janar Tapa Satya. Correct? Four above. So Bhur Bhuva Swaha are basically karmis. Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Even Swargaloka, even the Devatas, even though they are generally divine and good and devoted to Vishnu, the fruitive mentality is very strong up to Swargaloka. There is still a desire for enjoyment, in a dharmic way. But enjoyment is there, power is there, wealth is there, control is there, enjoyment is there. Good qualities may be there in Swarga, piety may be there, devotion may be there, but fruitive mentality is there. Maharlok and beyond, one basically has come to the point that fruitive enjoyment, I'm not interested. I want to go higher. Moksha and beyond. So those who are dedicated to an austere life of the cultivation of knowledge and detachment, the entry point is Maharlok. So Vanaprastha becomes qualified to enter Maharlok very easily. This is what the Bhagavatam says. So if one performs a lot of punya, one can go up to Swarga. But unless one cultivates serious austerity and renunciation like that of Vanaprastha, one cannot enter into Mahar. It is not that I'll perform so much punya that I'll go to Maharlok. No, no, no. Just perform ordinary mundane piety, no matter what that piety is. You can get more and more enjoyment and longer stay in heaven. Heaven meaning Swarga, but not go beyond that. You cannot. Simply by punya. Ordinary punya, piety. Fruitive piety. Now begins the discussion of what is the ideal of a Vanaprastha life. So a lot of points are mentioned. I'm not going to go in detail. The basic principle of what is mentioned about Vanaprastha is his life is very simple. First of all, he doesn't have job, business. He has to minimize his physical needs, wear very simple clothes, not even spend too much effort in even gathering grains and this and that and cooking elaborate feasts. Just whatever fruits and roots are available easily, which are ripened, fruits ripened by the sunshine, is what Bhagavatam says. To go to fields, grow crops, grow grains, all this. This is the standard of Vanaprastha in those days. Also, what is the need to cook? Why to pamper the taste? Fruits are there. get some grains fallen on the grounds. Even for the fire yajna, one is performing the yajnas in the Vanaprasthas. Just make cakes, means offering cakes into the fire made from fruits and grains which are growing naturally. And if you get lot of new grain, give away the old grain. Don't stock. Stock. Your attitude should be, I am dependent on the Lord. Whatever comes naturally, I collect a bit, I use for myself. Collection, management, stocking up are all anxieties which distract one from full focus or absorption. Spiritual consciousness. Best is to go to the forest, make a simple thatched hut so that you can have a place to do your fire rituals, a little bit of protection from snowfall, wind, rain, and all that. Either have a simple thatched hut, not a big bungalow, and ideally not apartments and all these things. Simple thatched hut, or in a cave. If a cave is available, stay in a cave. What is the problem? And don't spend too much time on taking care of the body. Nice haircut, dyeing the hair. Oh, some white hair. Oh, I need to dye. So, even about ideally, Vanaprasthas are such that they don't even bother to manage their matted hair, beard, mustache. Don't bother about various things. Keep a water pot, have a deer skin, a rod like a brahmachari, or you can wear the bark of a skin. And if you're wearing cloth, wear cloth of the color of fire. This is the color of renunciation. So best is one should remain in Vanaprastha ashram for 12 years. How many years? 12 years. After which one can either extend or enter sannyas. If 12 years is too long, so 12 years is like a very good detox period of the 25 years of enjoyment in Grihastha ashram. When one becomes, very nicely situated. 12 years is, for our human life, is practically considered like a yuga, 12 years within our own life. If 12 years is too much, 8 years. 8 years too much. 4 years in Vanaprastha. 2 years. Pause at least 2 years. Go away from family, remain in seclusion, develop your austerities, knowledge, live a simple life, eat simple. That also you cannot. At least 1 year. Cannot be less than that. I'm not saying this, Bhagavatam is saying this, Shloka is saying. At least one. Must. Otherwise, you're hopeless case. Otherwise, you're so attached. Then you're as good as Shudra. You are not willing to detach yourself from materialistic life. You just want to continue to enjoy your retirement with so much money and spend time with grandchildren and go around the world and have a good time and this and that. That's not the standard. Yeah. I'm sorry if this offends anybody, but most of us are in that situation, isn't it? But that is not the standard of Vanaprastha as envisaged in this. Serious detachment, serious cultivation of sadhana, serious austerities, tapadana yajna. And if one, because of either disease or old age, one is not able to perform his Vanaprastha duties properly, then one should fast. Is the ideal standard of Vanaprastha. So it is said either Vanaprastha can go ahead to become a sannyasi, or sannyas is also not something which each and every person always takes. Very few people take sannyas. Sannyas is an ashram of being a spiritual master of society. Vanaprasthas are generally not preachers in the traditional system. They are austere recluses. Sannyasi is generally expected to preach. Of course, there are two kinds. There are avadhutas and there are sannyasis. We'll discuss that more when we go into the next chapter. But Sannyasi's role is he's already samyak nyas, completely disassociated material activity, fully absorbed in Brahman. That is the expectation, and dedicated to becoming the spiritual master for society. That is the duty of a sannyasi, to be the guide and spiritual teacher. So not all Vanaprasthas will become sannyasi. That is one option. A Vanaprastha, if he is reclusive and he's very old and he wants to give up his body, then the Bhagavatam says that when a Vanaprastha who is fixed in the realization of his transcendental nature as the spirit soul, distinct from matter, can also give up his body and go to the higher realm. So that whole process is described in quite a few verses, the last many verses. In fact, verses from 24 to 31 is how the Vanaprastha should give up his body. So this set of verses 24 to 31, almost 8 verses, are not so much about how to, in the sense he should jump off a cliff, enter fire, not in that sense. Give up the body. Huh? The give up the body are not about methods of suicide. Give up the bodies, in what consciousness one should give up the body and how one should. Shastras often describe, and this is also the process of samadhi, those who leave the body with consciously. Well, just die, ordinary people. The very advanced in spiritual consciousness give up their body. We generally say he gave up the body, but usually most of us don't give up. We are thrown out of our body and by our karma and pulled out of our body by the force of karma or by the Yamadutas. But a Vanaprastha is advanced in knowledge, his detachment. He said slowly he sheds away various layers which are covering the soul and allows the various elements, the elements of his body, the Pancha Mahabhutas, merges into the Pancha Mahabhutas of the universe. The senses he gives back to the Devatas who gave the senses. And in this way, the mind, all the coverings one by one, until the point that he disassociates and detaches his own identity as pure soul from all these material coverings and being properly situated in the realization of his true nature as the pure spirit self, pure transcendental being, part and parcel of the Lord. He disassociates himself completely and leaves the body and goes upward. So when the chapter closes by saying, when the material body is thus returned to its various elements, only the indestructible spiritual being remains. Just like a fire extinguishes itself when the firewood is completely burnt. Very nice example. Huh? When the fire, when a firewood catches fire, at what point does the fire stop? The fire stops when the firewood is fully burnt, isn't it? Similarly, when all these elements are returned to their original source, everything is burned off into this fire. So all the elements which are borrowed, the basic point is everything to do with our body and identity, the material aspect is all borrowed. The elements which constitute this body, the Pancha Mahabhuta, are borrowed from the surrounding elements, isn't it? The earth, water, fire, air, ether, where are they coming? Where were they before this body got constituted? Every day we are feeding, right? Food. Food is what? A mixture of air, water, fire, air, ether also. It's building our body. So when the body disintegrates, all these elements go back into nature, into their respective repositories. Same is true for the mind, same is true for the intelligence. The various devatas are in charge of various senses. The powers of the various senses which are given by the devatas to us are handed back to the respective devatas. What does this actually mean? This means that we were never the owners or the proprietors of our body. The elements were borrowed, the senses were borrowed. Our mind, everything is borrowed. Temporarily, it is constituted based on your karma, so it facilitates the conditioned soul's journey for whatever he needs to experience, so that he can have uh, he can evolve in his progressive journey. At the end of life, if one wants to achieve liberation, one has to return back and clearly understand himself that I do not belong to any of this. I am the marginal energy. I am distinct from the Maya energy. Neither the body, nor the mind, nor the intelligence. The mind comes from the moon. Intelligence and its objects come from Lord Brahma. The false ego and material activities come from Rudra. And the material consciousness comes from Lord Vasudeva. So eventually all of these ego, then ego comes from the Mahat Tattva, the Mahat Tattva comes from the Pradhan, the original unmanifested material energy, and the Pradhan ultimately is an energy of the Super Soul, the Paramatma. So one distinguishes, detaches himself and sends back all their elements to their respective source. Idam, I am not this, I am Neti, 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 I am not this. Peels off all the layers, establishes himself as pure being. Eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, transcendental to material existence, liberates. So just like fire totally burns a firewood and disappears, material existence is burnt away. Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada. That is also the goal of Vanaprastha. Yes, Suraj is very excited about Vanaprastha. Let us see what question he has.
Yeah, that was Prabhu. I have
Yes,
two questions.
Prabhu. Yes.
Prabhu, like these ashramas, right? So in this age, it's very difficult, right, Prabhu, because we don't have lifespan only, first of all.
Huh?
And
You don't have lifespan. You don't. We may not have 100 years, but 80 years, yeah, we can still do. The problem is not just the lifespan. The problem is Kali-yuga, this whole system is so broken that we may not be able to follow in the traditional way that it was followed in ancient
that's
times.
my question, Prabhu. How do we this? Yeah.
So that we'll probably discuss. I was thinking let's discuss that at the end after we discuss all the four
I'll wait.
ashram duties. Yeah.
So yeah,
So,
next
so
question.
right now, so that's why what I'm saying is I'm not only describing the activities, ashram, I'm also talking about principles, right? So I mentioned this in the last class also. Whether you remember the details of deer skin, yellow cloth, eating grains which are left outside shops or fallen on the ground, those details are not the important details for us in our current situation. What is important? What is the principle of that ashram? The principle of that ashram, for example, Vanaprastha. What did you learn today? My expectation, what you should have learned today is, it is after Grahastha, it's the period of detaching. It's a detox, detachment, distancing oneself from materialistic pursuits, stopping materialistic pursuits, focusing on spiritual pursuits, and taking that transition period to detach through austerity, very simple living, high thinking, improving one's sadhana, improving selfless service. Correct? One may not have to go to a cave or a thatched hut. If somebody can, I don't think most of us can. That's not the essential part. What is most important is internal detachment. So if that is achieved, simple living, focus on the higher aspects, not pampering the body, eating simply, living simply, being austere, absorbed in sadhana, absorbed in seva. That is our expectation for those who want to do Vanaprastha. Okay? Yeah. What's
Prabhu, the
next
other
question?
question which I was asking, so you are requested me to ask in class. Uh,
What was that?
yeah, Prabhu, see, the problem what I'm facing, maybe with most of the devotees who are working, right? At times you are supposed to interact with our colleague, I mean senior schoolmates, our colleagues. and it has become quite common here in Bangalore. Like all the meetups, mostly in area where people drink, eat meat, and at some point of time we need them. We cannot avoid them either in personal way or in professional. But we ourselves will not get into all these activities. But how do we handle this, Prabhu? Because this is something like I tried my best to avoid, but at times I'm not able to do it.
The general principle is to interact as much as needed only.
Okay.
That's the ideal standard. This means we are still nice with all those who are around us, our friends, our relatives, our colleagues, neighbors. It's very important to be nice. First thing is not to be condescending. Condescending means, you're all fantastic. I don't want to be near you. Even though internally we know that their association is not good, we don't go and say that on their face.
Yeah.
So there may be places in a work setup where one can go. For example, and I'm just sharing some thoughts here. The principle, how exactly to apply what events are important and which are not, is something that you have to see your own circumstances and situations. But in certain times, one may have to be in a certain environment. Uh, Let's say there is an annual day, there is a team event
Yeah.
of the company. Uh, So such places, one cannot just say that I will not be there. But there also one is careful in terms of the activities that one participates in, the food and drink that one consumes. So most places, of course, it's a little bit of effort. It's not easy. So these environments will have their own energy, which can be contaminating. So that requires spiritual strength to remain strong, and that is why a devotee doesn't like to subject himself. But certain times, he has to be there for a short while, and then he has to protect himself from not getting too infected by that environment. So one develops that shield and detachment as one evolves and advances spiritually. But social events, for example, some friends say, "Hey, every Friday after work we go to the bar downstairs and spend some time having drinks." You don't have to do. Yeah, maybe we will miss on some nice office gossip and maybe some this thing. But then we have to see what is more valuable for us. So uh, uh, yeah, so one has to be intelligent. The whole principle is to minimize materialistic association. But that doesn't mean that we don't deal with any materialistic people. We deal with the materialistic people, yavan artha, whatever is needed according to our professional obligations. And other than that, we are nice. We can do nice things for them. We can be nice to them, and should never be seen as condescending. If we approach it with the right way, generally, my experience is people are appreciative, and they're also very accommodative. In fact, they will generally, knowing spiritual standards, even upfront come and tell you, can we know you don't usually this, what can we arrange for you? Huh? Uh, then, they'll generally try to.
Yeah, Prabhu.
So we
So
have to
another
use our intelligence. Yeah.
two minor things, Prabhu. In office mess also we cannot avoid, right, Prabhu? The colleague next to
If
you.
somebody sitting next to you on an office table and eating meat, what can you do about
Yeah. Okay. This
it?
also
But
yeah.
but at the same time, if somebody is always eating and you feel repulsed by it or you don't feel good, then you have to time your lunch in such a way that you don't go and sit at the same time. Right. So these are just basic things. But if somebody is sitting at the same table in office and doing whatever, whether they are drinking or eating, we should not be bothered.
And the
And
last thing,
generally avoid commenting on others' flaws unless
okay.
they ask you for opinion, because then it seems condescending. What happens is when we start commenting on others, while they may keep quiet for that time, whether they drink or any of intoxication, illicit sex, gambling, whatever they may be doing, meat eating. They may keep quiet there, but then they will get back to you by trying to scrutinize all your activities so thoroughly. And if you are not 100% up to the mark, they will take great pleasure in finding fault with everything that they can find fault with you. Ah, you said you are devotee, but how come you did this? How come you are allowed to talk like this? How come you got angry? The Bhagavad Gita speaker, no? Supposed to get angry. You ask your boss for bonus. Are the Bhagavad Gita, no? You should be detached, no? Why are you asking for bonus? You see, if you start picking at others, others will pick at you. So be gracious. You don't have to say what you are doing are okay. If they ask you, explain your position. And if they ask you why you follow this, you explain. But don't say it in a condescending way. Say, I follow certain spiritual principles, and for my spiritual development, this is what I do, and this is what I don't do. Leave it at that. Come eat, enjoy. I don't indulge in this. Just keep it at that. And over time, you'll see that if you maintain that approach, they will actually develop a healthy respect for you.
Yeah, Prabhu, the
Otherwise,
last.
when we are not pure, when we go around scrutinizing others' purity, be sure they will reciprocate in kind. And
Yeah,
we are
Prabhu.
not at the level that
Yeah.
we will always be able to maintain and display the highest standards of behavior because we are still conditioned souls. Then we'll be very frustrated.
So,
Go
Prabhu, the
ahead, go ahead.
last. Sorry, I was disturbing actually. Sorry. So, Prabhu, the one thing what I seen is, see, even though my such meetups in a year be 3 to 4 times, not more than that. Some people after drinking and eating meat, right, they have the habit while going, hugging habit, right, Prabhu? So, so are we
Okay.
not implicated? Just asking.
By hugging, you'll get implicated. How you will
Uh,
get implicated? You're not hugging women, right? Then you'll get implicated.
No, Prabhu, I got it. But are we not implicated? Actually, I'm just asking.
What is the meaning of the word implicated? If somebody eats non-veg, if they come and
Yeah,
embrace you, are you saying you'll get the sin of eating non-veg by their embracing you?
the doubt I'm asking. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, of course not.
Okay, fine. I got it.
So when we talk about Sangha, the Sangha is not just about physically being close with them.
Okay,
Sangha is about sharing the heart. A
okay,
devotee is careful to not open his heart and share his heart with others because then the hearts connect. And I'm not talking about mundane love here. Anybody, when you open your heart in confidence with anybody, and when two people sit on a drink, sit and have a meal together, they'll generally open their heart and discuss. That is where the hearts associate with each other. If you take their association by opening your heart, then you may get contact. If you just physically embrace somebody wants to embrace you as a friend, you just physically embrace just out of a goodwill. That's not an issue. You start saying, then they'll think that you are condescending.
got it. Yeah.
Of course, if somebody has drunk so much, he's about to puke on you, then he wants to embrace you, then you may want to run away from that embracement. That's a different scenario.
Yeah. Prabhu, and the last one, just give some advice, Prabhu. See,
Uh,
uh, even though like after a long time, my conscious is little bit developing. So, but
mm.
if somebody's offering something with their cooked from the home or something vegetarian, but we are not sure right about their consciousness. So, how do we? Is there anything we can tell before taking up that food? You got me right, Prabhu.
No, you can ask for what are the ingredients at least.
No,
That's the
no,
absolute
that I'm
minimum.
very sure that is a vegetarian. I'm telling they might have ate non-veg and brought that food, and
So,
so
so
we
there
are
are so
eating.
there are two. Okay, I understood the question.
Yeah.
So of course, the ideal standard of devotional service is to eat only prasad. Okay?
Okay.
But having said that, and then again, different devotees will have different opinions. The ideal standard is eat only prasad, which is cooked by devotees, offered by devotees, served by devotees. So that is the standard which we should endeavor to meet as far as possible. Yeah. But in a working environment, in the material setup, that's why I'm saying, to follow strict standards of the Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprasthas, Sannyas, in today's time is very difficult.
Yeah.
Because, so what we do in such situations, if it's at least a vegetarian thing, of course, we know that they may not have actually offered, and you want to just not disrespect them
Yeah.
by saying, I don't want to eat from your hand. Some may do that, and they may do it nicely. If they can do, that's their choice. I am not saying that, some disciples would want that, that have to maintain that style. But the absolute minimum we should do, absolute minimum. Even if we take, we should just mentally say Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, and then take.
Yeah.
That's an absolute minimum so that we don't get karma and we can counteract the contamination in that. You can say mentally, you don't have to, keep it in front of a picture and ring bell, and it may not be always practical. Just mentally say, yeah, of course it has to be sattvic. Sattvic in the sense for those who are following no onion, no garlic, vegetarian. Yeah, it has to be in that category.
So, Prabhu, if
For the
there is
people.
onion and garlic also, we can tell that Sri Vishnu because we don't know, right? So,
Yeah, you can say Sri Vishnu, but I'm talking about those who have already come to the standard of no onion, no garlic. And
okay.
they will maintain that standard. For those of you who are still eating, then yes, you can say Sri Vishnu for onion, garlic also, not for chicken, mutton, eggs.
No, no, good.
Yeah.
Prabhu, the last question, Prabhu. So, the moment we wake up, right, I have glass of water, take bath, and do my prayers. So, now we are having water without first praying to God, right? So, how do we deal with that?
No,
You
that's
got me
okay
right?
for health reason. Yeah, that's okay. For health reasons, some people as soon as they wake up. So the first thing we should do as soon as we wake up is offer obeisances to our spiritual master.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Remember
mantra,
spiritual
right?
master. Yeah, we should say the mantra of the spiritual master, especially Prabhupada if you are not initiated. If you're initiated, Guru and Prabhupada, that we do right in the bed, even before we get out of bed.
Yeah, that mantra, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so that is best. And after that, some people, there are various medical therapies. So some people, they want to take water even without brushing their teeth for a medical reason. They have their own whatever. So the ideal standard of Brahmana is after everything, then he takes. But these are small things. These are not like core principles that, of course, before worship, one should have taken bath.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the least one should do. At least ideally, one should take bath and then do japa, arti, whatever. The least one should do, of course, if one just wants to drink some warm water as soon as one wakes up, so, okay, because that's not done with a desire to eat food. It is done as a medical thing.
Good.
But at least, ideally, one should take bath and do japa. But otherwise, at least one should wake up, wash one's mouth, face, hands, feet as a minimum. Because the name actually, there are no rules and regulations. Anybody can chant at any time. But absolute basic one should. Not that one sits up in bed and picks up his bead bag. One should get up. Typically we'll at least pass water after we get up. Then wash one's feet, hand, rinse mouth, wash face. At least that much before one touches one's feet.
Yeah, it's clear.
Ideally after taking bath, but otherwise at least this.
Yeah.
And sometimes as soon as one gets, see, for medical reasons, if one makes exception because of following a particular regimen, all that is okay. Yeah. So in general, we should always be trying to work towards the highest standards. There may be situations, and the Vedas recognize that. The Vedas say that in emergency and unusual circumstances, the rules may be temporarily adjusted.
Yeah. Clear.
For example, when for Ekadashi, the Shastras say, and Sanatana Goswami says this is Hari Bhakti Vilas. For those who are less than 5 years of age and those who are above 80 years of age, they are Ekadashi exempt.
Hmm.
Of course, if they can follow, even good. I mean, my children, all the time we should below 5 also. We were always, and also if somebody is in a diseased condition and requires a specific diet, then whatever is required in that condition, if it is possible to cover through Ekadashi, one should, not forcibly that one has to give grains for anybody who's sick. But if a particular medical treatment requires something not according to Ekadashi standards, it is considered acceptable in such situations. So the scriptures are not just rigid, they are practical. They understand that there may be exceptions. That's why I'm saying, while for all that we discussed right now, there is an ideal standard.
Okay.
There is a
Yeah.
sometimes exception, and there may be emergency situation. So one has to use one's intelligence based on circumstance, knowing
No.
that one must always be trying the best. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You want to say something?
yeah. So while having water, also
Go
we
ahead.
can
Go
tell
ahead.
before taking bath. Is it
Yeah, yeah. You can have water.
okay? At that time we can recite.
For the purpose that I told you, right?
Okay.
Yeah, recite what? Shri Vishnu, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. Before the moment
Yeah,
we
yeah,
enter.
yeah. Shri Vishnu, you can recite Apavitro Pavitro Sarva Vastam Gato Piva. Yes, Mareta Pundarika. In fact, Vishnu will purify even when we are impure. That's why we chant Vishnu. So
Okay.
you
Yeah.
cannot say we'll chant Vishnu only when we are pure. We chant especially when we are impure,
Yeah.
so that we become pure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's clear.
remembering the Lord and chanting His name have
Yeah.
no rules and regulations.
Yeah. It's clear. Yeah. Yeah. Bro.
Hari
Thank you.
Bol. Sridhar Prabhu.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, shall I ask one question? Like it's too late, right, for you?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm your servant. No problem for me. If anybody is getting late, they can drop off.
Yeah, one good. Yeah, Prabhuji, actually, this the children they will go to the ashrama, right, for brahmacharya. So
Hmm.
the guru will segregate based on the how that three categories,
Varna.
right? Varna, yeah. So he will segregate or like based on their background, he will be like uh, segregate the sections like
What? Okay.
Brahmana.
Their living conditions, I don't think there is segregation. But in terms of what topics they are taught, so there will be certain which are common topics for all three, which all three are expected to learn. There are certain advanced topics, both with respect to scripture, rituals, etc., which Brahmana students will learn. So that will be like a separate class, right? Like a course, like in university, right? There are electives. So that class will gather there. Only those who are qualified for that class will attend that class. So there will be certain common activities, there will be certain specialized. Even the Vaishyas and Kshatriyas may have certain specialized training. For Vaishyas, there may be specialized training around, cow protection, agriculture, trade, and other things, which Kshatriyas and Brahmanas may not attend. How exactly at a practical level that was managed, I do not have that insight, but principally, those who needed to be trained in a particular skill or knowledge were then gathered and imparted that education. But a basic level of spiritual Vedic education was given to all. So there are common courses and there are specialized skills and knowledge and scriptural training, something like that. But they live together, they live equal. There is no, I do not think that there was, as far as I know, there is a special Brahmanas residential quarters, Kshatriyas. I do not think that that kind of organization was there with respect to their living and basic facilities. They were all treated equally. Even Krishna and Sudama in their ashram, right, of Sandipan, they were staying together. They were for all purposes, even though Brahmana and who's Krishna, when he was in the ashram, he was treated as a Kshatriya, even though when he went to Vrindavan, his Leela was that of a Vaishya. But otherwise, after he went to Mathura, he's treated as a Kshatriya from an external perspective.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Prabhuji.
Yeah,
Hare.
the exact details I'm not, because now there's no proper system. So that's why Prabhupada spoke about Daivi Varnashram. And we'll come to that discussion when we come to the conclusion of this particular canto. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare.
Yeah, yeah. Tarun, you withdrew your hand. I'm assuming your question was already answered.
Prabhuji, actually, it is getting late for you, so I thought I can ask next time. That's not an issue.
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Prabhuji, I was just asking one question that just like there are so many mantras you're talking about for withdraw one, means we don't recall all mantras and remember. So can we just chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and will that be sufficient, Prabhu?
Yes, sufficient. So even though you may not remember the mantra, you can just remember Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to remember the mantra. What the mantra says is, whether is pure or impure, if he remembers the name of Vishnu, then he is purified. You say that and then you say Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu. So if you keep that consciousness and simply say Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, that's adequate. You don't remember that, if you just say the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it's also adequate. The whole point is that the name of the Lord is potent to purify us in all situations and circumstances. So Prabhupada made even the offering.
Yes.
Sometimes Prabhupada would say, for those, I mean, this is not for serious sadhakas, but those in the very beginning stages who don't know proper offering process and all that. So just keep the plate in front of the Lord, mentally say, Lord, please take, and just chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra 3 times. Because everything becomes auspicious with the holy name. So all processes, all activities in Kali Yuga must be with the name. That is very important. Prabhupada and the other acharyas emphasize that. So name can be used all places or anywhere you think you don't know anything, just chant the holy name. That is all perfect. So don't forget the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That much you have to remember.
Yes, that I cannot forget.
Yeah, so that's easy. Then you are safe.
Yeah.
स्मर्तव्य सततम विष्णुम विस्मर्तव्य न जातुचित सर्वे विधि निषेधास्युर एतयोरेव किंकरः. The bottom line principle of all Vedic instructions, both positive and negative instructions, vidhi and vished, do's and don'ts, is that only 2 things. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Sarve vidhi nishedasur. And we chant the name to remember, because when we do Shravan and Kirtan, Smaran comes automatically. It is very hard for us to do Smaran like Prahlad, be perfect in Smaran without Shravan and Kirtan, without chanting and hearing. It's very difficult. We cannot do. In Kali Yuga, especially, it is very, very, very difficult. Our mind is always distracted. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna paramathi balavadridam. So by continuously chanting and by hearing both the name and the katha, one can absorb one's mind in Krishna and not be forgetful of Krishna. That is the goal of life. So in all activities, and that's what Krishna told Arjuna. Arjuna, I'm teaching you all these things. Why? Mama anusmara yudhya. You fight, but remembering me, you fight. Mayarpita mano buddhi mame vaishyasya sabcha. If you do your duties by remembering me with your mind and intelligence offered to me, you will come to me without fail. You don't have to worry. It doesn't matter what your duty is. Whether you're Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra, doesn't matter. Even if you're an outcast, doesn't matter if you're a devotee. If your mind and intelligence are offered to me, and the simple way of beginning that whole process is by chanting. That's why chanting is a process which is accessible to the lowest of the low and can take the person to the highest of the high. That is the full span of the Nama, which no other process has. That is the glory of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to the holy name. Okay, you get the answer. So don't worry. Anything, anytime you don't know, just chant. Hare Krishna. Everything will be auspicious. Okay, so we'll conclude.
you,
So
Prabhu.
thank you so much. I'll see you all. Yeah, Anand Sundari Mataji, thank you so much, Mataji. Sachi Prima Mataji, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hari Bol.
Hari Hari, Jai Ho.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you
Hari
so much.
Bol, Hare Krishna,
Prabhu.
Pooja ji,
Hare Krishna
Tarun,
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Indulekha Mataji,
Hare
thank
Krishna,
you.
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Mataji.
Happy Ugadi,
Namaskar, Hari
Prabhuji.
Bol. Hari Hari. Huh? What was that? Somebody said happy something.
Happy Ugadi. Happy
Happy
New Year,
Ugadi.
Prabhu. And tomorrow is there.
Happy
Happy
Ugadi.
New
Yes,
End of
yes.
Samvat.
Happy New Year.
Happy
Chaitra, yeah.
And all.
Today,
Krishna Prabhu. Thank you,
Hari
Prabhu.
Bol, Hari Bol. Sudhir, Sudhir.
Okay,
Yeah, so
Hare
today is
Krishna.
actually Amavasya. Today is also Surya
Ah.
Grahan in many places, not in Malaysia, not in India, but in certain. It's a very interesting astrological combination right now as Shani is moving to Pisces. Lot of things. So please expect some very interesting times to manifest in the world very soon.
So many things are happening.
Lot of interesting things going to happen. You will see a lot in our lifetime. We will all see a lot in our lifetime. We are born at very, very interesting period in history. So anyway, so yeah, thank you, Suraj, Shalini ji, Haribol,
Hare Krishna.
Pooja ji, Bhaskar, Sridevi ji, Sridhar ji and family,
Thank you,
Sarvadakshana
Prabhuji.
ji,
Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari, Sridevi ji.